Welcome to HP Tuner's Ford Gen 2 Coyote Training Part 9. In this training module, we're going to be exploring our source codes. Our source codes are going to allow us to understand how our engine control module is functioning in a variety of different ways, from spark timing to our airflow mode, to our torque control, to our drive-by-wire control. All of this hinges upon understanding which specific mode we're operating in. By knowing the modes or the codes, we're going to be able to go into our engine control module programming and be able to jump to a certain area to be able to fix an issue or to understand how the engine control module is functioning at a particular point in time when we're reviewing a data log. Without further wait, let's jump in so we can check out understanding our source codes. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at working with our source codes for our Gen 2 Coyote applications. Now, our source codes are going to be invaluable information that we have to data log. We have to understand what's going on with it because it points to how the engine control module is operating at any given time. So if we have some kind of a limiter in place, might be a speed limiter, might be a torque truncation type of limiter, we need to make sure we're understanding where it's coming from. Without logging the source codes, we have no idea what's going on within the engine control module's operation. So things like fuel and spark timing or throttle angle control all can be boiled down to looking at the source codes, figuring out how the engine control module is operating at the particular point in time. That'll point us towards where it's sourcing its fuel or spark or throttle control information from. So it's essentially giving us a roadmap to interfacing with our calibration file here. It's invaluable information. So let's jump in here and take a look at this. We'll be talking about our source codes as we go through the training modules further and further, but I wanted to bring this in earlier in the training course so you understand some of these fundamental basic concepts here for our Ford applications. So moving into our Excel spreadsheet that I provided in our training course folder, I have that open up right here. We're gonna go from our Math tab down below and go all the way across here to our source codes. Now on this particular page, we're finding we have things labeled sparks or torque source, fuel source, spark source, driver demand, throttle angle, air limit source, max torque. These are all the different source codes that can be thrown under these different sources. So what is a source? Let's kind of break that down. It might be confusing. Looking at something like spark source is probably one of the easier ones to understand. Spark source is going to tell us where the spark timing is being sourced from in terms of the tables that we have when the engine control module is programming. Now we haven't talked about spark timing yet. We'll have separate training modules on that, but let's just jump in here very briefly and explore where we can find the spark timing in our calibration file. Now I have a 2017 Mustang GT calibration file open here, and I'm gonna go up into my engine tab, and I'm gonna go over here into our spark tab, and then here under advanced, this is where the spark timing comes from. We have things like our borderline tables, maximum brake torque, pre-ignition, cylinder pressure. These are where we have spark timing being sourced from at any given time. Now there is a logical way that it flows between all of our spark timing. So it doesn't just source randomly between all these different compensation tables, and I'll break that down how it actually works in future training modules. But we need to understand where it's sourcing the spark timing from, and that's what the spark source allows us to see. So now we can find that we have our borderline tables here. If we pop back into our source codes and we look at our spark source, we can see borderline is going to be one that it can show us in data logging with our ECM scanner, so it's a channel that we can actually log called spark source. It'll point towards, if we're riding in the borderline tables, that borderline is where the spark timing is coming from. So we know it's coming from some of these tables right here. It could be come from one table or multiple tables, depending on how the variable cam programming is being sourced. That's what the map points here are going to be associated with. Again, kind of getting ahead of myself, so I don't want to get too complicated with the spark timing, but just understand the spark source can tell us where the spark timing is coming from. So if we see here under spark source, under the code, that it's showing borderline, then we know the values are coming from the borderline table. Or alternatively, if we're finding that it's showing pre-ignition or cylinder pressure, we know that the spark timing is being sourced from the pre-ignition here or the cylinder pressure. So we know it's coming from one of these. So again, it gives us a sneak peek into where the spark timing is coming from. We can log the spark timing, that's fine, but unless we know where it's coming from, it's near impossible to tune the engine control module. So again, it gives us a snapshot into what's going on at that particular point of logging time in our data logs. Okay, let's jump in here and take a look at a couple additional things. And if we're looking at our fuel source, thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.